many years ago, I'm sure maybe many of you know and have looked at my social media stuff and whatever, and looked at a lot of my website stuff and have become aware of what we do. Many years ago, I studied this in former Yugoslavia, and Croatia would be the area now. And we came back to Ireland, of course, and had no real interest because we were in our early 20s at that stage. So we had no real interest in what we were doing, just except from the point of view of martial arts, we were interested in how the body worked. And we could see clearly that they had developed a way of working with the energy in the Eastern cultures, certainly in Yugoslavia as well. We brought it back, and next thing it appeared on the Late Late Show, and next thing, 30 years later, here we are still doing the work. Now, when we started to do the bioenergy first, for 4 years we worked without charging. And the whole focus of that was to remove that as an obstacle. We just basically left it on people themselves to decide what it is they wanted to pay. And after about 3 years, when we were pretty much burnt out, we just decided, okay, that was it. We just couldn't cope with the crowds, with the 1,000 people queuing up outside the door in the morning, 500 people in the room, maybe 7 or 8 therapists, just basically trying to do the work. It literally nearly killed us. So of course, then we had to just taper it all down, stream it all down, and begin to start from there. Now you have to appreciate in 1990, mobile phones were very limited. If they were hardly there, the internet was just coming on scene. People living a normal life, eating the right foods, things like that. And people were socially interactive more. But unfortunately, as time went on, we could clearly see that the energy work in itself was insufficient, that it formed a huge part of it, but that it was insufficient in itself. So the whole idea then was that we would just basically have to develop a way of working with the energy system, but also incorporate other modalities. Part of that then is to study with the Taoist system, understanding emotional transformation, because we needed to understand where emotions were stored and all of that. And we needed to begin to teach people how it is that they would be able to stimulate and work with their emotions. Now, so I suppose the simplest way to put this to you is this. The modern day practitioner, okay? The modern day practitioner, here in my clinic, as you see here, the type of patient or client I would see here every day is reflective of what you see in a doctor's surgery. We see everything, okay? We would see patients with POTS syndrome, various cardiovascular diseases, rheumatology issues, so-called autoimmune problems, chronic fatigue, long COVID, all these types of things we see now in our clinic. And the real key here, the modern day practitioner is no longer a healer, okay? The modern day practitioner is a practitioner that is able to look at the individual or patient coming to a clinic, and then from there, devise a strategy. And the strategy incorporates working with the energy, working with the mindset, working with the emotional skills, working with the nutrition, looking at the environment. And I'm very fortunate to work with a number of medical people, psychiatrists, psychologists, vascular consultants, gastroenterologists, that if I find there is a client that comes in and I'm unhappy because of my experience, I'm unhappy with what they are seeing, or what I'm seeing here, then I will look and speak with them and get a further referral to get a proper analysis done. Now, all of these people will also be available to therapists that we just finished a course now. So those same people will be available. It gives them an avenue to exhaust. So the other side of that is, so I'll give you 2 clients. We'll say, for example, one I had last week who was a 23-year-old with blood pressure. So the question you have to ask yourself, a 23-year-old sitting on the chair has blood pressure monitor on. So the question I'm asking, well, why have you a blood pressure monitor on? Okay, so he's 23, he's overweight. So therefore, we have to now begin to look at why his life is manifesting in this way. So what we do then is we kind of draw up a chart. So I have a whiteboard here, I have a whiteboard in the background here. I have an interactive board here now, actually. And I want you to imagine a roundabout. Can you imagine that, guys? A roundabout? Okay, I might be able to just share a screen. So if you just bear with me for a moment, and just to kind of give you, okay, just.
Sorry, Michael, there's a lot of background noise. Some people aren't muted. I wonder, would you mind?
Yeah, if you can just mute, yeah, I can do it here, but it's better if we just, if everybody do it together. Yeah, exactly. Can everybody, okay?
Thank you.
Everybody good there now? Yeah, you can all hear me now?
Yeah, that's much better.
Yeah, great, yeah, there's a couple of nights. So the thing is that what I explained to this guy who is overweight, who is no energy, who is burnt out, who's 23, who has a blood pressure monitor on him, and yet there's no diagnosis of any disease. But he has all these multiple of problems. Now I can work with the energy and he will feel great. But will this be the solution to his problem? It won't. So what I have to do then, so on the board behind me, or I'll bring him over and I'll say, okay, so let's look at your life. So I have a roundabout, okay, and I have 4 roads, one coming in, one going out straight, one to the left and one to the right. Very simple image. Is everybody that image, yeah? Now, I said to him, because you're overweight and because of the way you live, you can go straight on, and I'm going to tell you what you're going to develop. You're going to develop cancer, you're going to develop heart problems, you're going to develop diabetes, you could lead to amputations, you're going to have circulatory issues, amongst a lot of other problems. Why can I say that to him? Because science determines this. Science says that our model of living is what creates our illness. So, so then I said to him, well, you can go left. You come to the roundabout, you go straight on. This is what's at the end of the road for you. You're not there yet, but this is what's there. You can go left. So what's left? Well, left is a dead end. What does that mean? It means that you can expect everybody else to solve your problem. You can go to your doctor, your cardiologist, whoever, your psychiatrist, your therapist, your energy therapist, your aromatherapy, your reflexology, your Reiki, your chiropractor. You can go to all of the therapists and expect them to solve your problem. That's the illusion. That's a dead end. Okay? Or you can hang a right. The right means you're going to be healthy. You're taking responsibility. Okay? Now, once he sees clearly the picture in front of him about where he's going, about the options he has available, and then we get him on the right track. Now, we have him on the right track. And then, now we can work to begin to move the blockages of energy through the series of skills and techniques that we've developed. Now we can begin to educate him about his nutrition. Now we can begin to teach him about how to strengthen his body and exercise. Now we can begin to get him to understand if there are obstacles, how we can confront that. And any other support he may require, we will produce that. And that's the modern day practitioner. It's not a question of, one time somebody would come to us with a back pain, maybe with asthma, sinus issues, maybe digestive problem, depression, and you'd say, fine, we can work with that through this technique. Now, it's a much more complex problem. People are coming in with multiples of symptoms, diagnosed with fibromyalgia, for example. As we all know, there's no real clinical evidence to support that diagnosis, because all it is aches and pains, fatigue, inflammation, can't sleep. And because people are slotted into this box, then that box then says that's fibromyalgia. You go away, you take your antidepressants, your sleeping pills, your anti-inflammatories, and so on, and painkillers. So we can prescribe that. Does that solve the problem? No. Will it help temporarily? It very much may. So the whole idea is to get people to focus, take responsibility and focus on their journey. Now, the thing is this, and I'll come to the energy point of it in a moment, but the key thing about this guy, he is 23, he's a chef. Now I said to him, look, what is going to happen at the end of this journey? It might take 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, or a year. But this is the strategy we work with in our environment. Even though people can physically and often change within a few days, but the overall recovery pathway for these people is a change of their model of living. Can you understand that, guys? It's a change of their model of living. And this is what society demands now. And the thing is that for me, with experience over 30 years, it's easy. And I bring that experience to the clinical, to the training environment. And the thing is that for him, I said, okay, so you're 23, so you're now on the road to health. So this is going to be Nathan's journey. By the end of this journey, this is who you're going to be. This is what you're going to look like. This is I'm asking him this. What are you going to look like? Who are you going to be? What are your friends? What are your jobs? What are your relationships? This all comes into it. And then from there, I said, now at the end of this, you're going to be a much healthier, better person. So you're now going to have a book. You're going to have a book about Nathan's journey to recovery. And you're also going to, because you're a chef, you're going to have a cookbook or all as one, Nathan's journey, what he ate, the obstacles he experienced. So I've given him an incentive. Do you get what I'm saying to you? Do you get what I'm saying, guys? I've given him an incentive because when you understand energy, lots of people, when we get people in here and we work with energy and they move and bend and twist and feel heat and thing and coolness, that can be hugely egotistical for a lot of people. For me, in my clinical practice, for the therapist in a clinical environment, they have to be able to get into the nuts and bolts of things. It's not just good enough, oh, you poor thing, we want to clear your energy, we want to release your stress. That won't work anymore. It will help for a period of time, but it won't bring about a solution-based model for these patients who come to our clinics. And for the practitioners who we train, we bring that, we want them to engage that model of care within their practical environment. And the thing is that, when he now, so I mean, I sent him a text today, which is just last week, by the way. And I just sent him a text. I sent him, I keep up with people sometimes, and I send him a message. And Nathan, I just asked him to send him a message, and then I asked him. So I said, hi, Michael, I am doing good. The walking is going well. I have gotten out most of the days. As for my change in food, is also going good. I have started having an actual breakfast, which had left me not going to the bars and Coca-Cola. I am not eating anything late at night and feeling a lot more motivated to actually try and make my own stuff for lunch or when I go to work. Thanks for catching up. Because this guy, okay, when he came, so he worked in shift work. So I said, give me a time. So he said 10 to 6. So at 10 o'clock in the morning, 9:30 would get up, go to work. Okay? He'd have a break at 12 o'clock. It would be Coke in a bar. At lunchtime, which would be about 1 or 2 o'clock, he'd have a burger, Coke, and maybe something else. Midday, something, or mid-afternoon, something else like that. In the evening, he would go to the shop. When he'd be finished at 6, he would go and buy sweet foods. Those sweet foods, then he would have them between, he'd have his dinner, which could be a pizza, could be something else or whatever. And then, of course, he would, between that period of time and 1 o'clock when he would go to bed, he would eat the rubbish that he bought. So no matter how much energy work I was going to do with him, if he wasn't going to engage in a change of behavior, because when we worked back to look at what really caused the blockage of energy in his body, we found an emotional blockage. Now that we could release that energetically, and he begun to shift, and he begun to see what exactly was going on in his body. From there, he began to realize, and from there, he began to change his behavior with food. Because food is the behavior. That's all it is. We adapt a behavior with food when we're stressed and anxious. Then if we adapt that, the brain learns then that when we adapt, if we're stressed, we adapt that behavior. We'll go for coffees, for sweets, for biscuits, for phone, for wine, for kick the cash, whatever you want to talk, whatever happens. And this is really what goes on. So now he's on the path. So now we're going to see a guy in 3, 6, 9, 12 months time who's going to be in a different space completely. And like I have a guy. Can everybody see me? Yeah. I have another girl this week, young girl, and she came in and I know she has POTS syndrome. She was dismissed from hospital in a wheelchair and thought it was all in her mind. And I know that POTS syndrome is a classic symptom of COVID, not the vaccine, of COVID. And so I have her now going, because I'm not happy, and because when she stands up, her blood pressure or her heart rate goes up to anything maybe 160, 180, 200, and she collapses. So it's a classic POTS syndrome. But they're trying to tell her in Cork that it's not. It's anxiety. So now, because again, we have spoken and we're getting on out to see a vascular consultant, a cardiologist to have a full assessment. And that's the backup. However, we will still work with the energy. We will still work with her nutrition. It still takes a couple of days to get into the space that she's in, the trauma that she's experienced with the hospital care and all that kind of stuff. And this is kind of what we deal with every day. But no matter what the problem is, for practitioners, for people like yourself who want to become a practitioner, who want to become a healthcare practitioner, and I always say to people, if you want to become a healthcare practitioner, why? Often people say, oh, I love to help people. I say, if you want to help people mow their lawn, paint their house, you know, this is not about helping people. It's more than that. Yes, you will help them. But the critical thing here is that you've got to be able to engage with them, because you have to ask 3 key questions. Where is your health problem coming from? How is it affecting you? And how are you dealing with it? I am telling you now that every patient I have coming into my clinic, they have never been asked that question in a doctor's surgery. Where is my health problem coming from? And how is it affecting me? And therefore, and how am I dealing with it? So the normal thing is, well, you have this symptom, we treat it with drugs. And while that might be necessary initially, modern society is looking for a greater approach and greater integration of therapies to work. So when we train practitioners, and I train practitioners and Ava who does the Qigong as well, which I'll talk to you about, I want that methodology, that model of living. And that's why I'm developing this 888 model of living. 8 hours living, 8 hours working, 8 hours sleeping. 8 hours living, 8 hours working, 8 hours sleeping. Well, why would I do that? Well, because the science says that your body functions like that. That every hour and a half to 2 hours, your body goes, you have what are called ultradian rhythmic systems, like circadian rhythms. And when that rhythmic system is thrown off, because every hour and a half to 2 hours, you go into recovery mode. That's every day. But we push through the recovery mode. We don't take that few minutes for ourselves intermittently throughout the day. And if we do, it's to take coffee, it's to smoke a cigarette, have a glass of wine, whatever. We don't go out in the fresh air and disconnect. You know, we just don't understand the workings of our body. And, you know, when I sit people down and start to educate them about this, it's, you know, this is really what catches them. They begin to appreciate how powerful they are. You know, how many people know that you have 78 organs in your body? That you have 60,000 miles of vessels from the moment you're born? How many people know that, you know, that 90% of you is not human, it's made up of microbes? So we know the most up-to-date research teaches us that the microbial signaling in the gut now leads to all types of cancers. So we bring that modern up-to-date research into our training program. And the more you have that, it's easier then to show to your clients. I'll bring my clients over to an interactive screen now, or I bring them to the computer and I say, let's look at the research. Let's look at it. If you keep going the way you're going, this is what's going to happen to you. And I can do everything for you here. And God can appear in front of you and do whatever. But if you continue the journey that you're on, you know, you're not going to get better. Because energy is a language. It's transmitted through working with it, through the verbal side of it, you know, through what your own energy is, the consciousness that you bring to it as yourself. Because when you have to bring a consciousness, a positivity, but a consciousness to the field of energy that changes it. Because people out there today, they're in a dark space. They're living in fear, anxiety, depression, and that's a dark energy. So how are we going to allow the light in? They will find that they struggle to allow that in. Young people in particular, but so adults. I get people sitting here to me who will tell me, Michael, I'm suicidal. I say, fine. Have you acted on it? No. Okay, so how are you dealing with it? Are you getting the proper psychological help? Have you started taking medication? Maybe you need to get some, maybe you need to do that, all of these types of things. So I assess it all. You know, and I always say to these people, look at what it is. You are looking to end the life you're experiencing now. You're not looking to end your life. And I want you to look at it that way. And it doesn't make a difference what the thought process is, what the pain, the suffering, the anxiety, the rheumatology issues, the cancers, the depression, as I said, you know, the Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, all of these conditions. People are looking to end that type of life and to live a normal life. Science tells us that that's a possibility. And we must bring that consciousness as practitioners to the clinical environment. And if we bring that to the environment, then that's so powerful. Because when we stand in front of somebody and we start working with them, they sense this. They sense different sensations and change and movement. And even over a period of 24 hours, their body is already changing. Because we know the power of one's intention affects another person's physiology. The Noetic Institute of Science, for example, clearly demonstrated this. And the real thing about the energy work and why it's so critical, because the opposite side to this is, let's just see if I have a look. The opposite side to this is, we will get people who are on a perfectly healthy diet. We will get people who are seeing lots of other practitioners, who are having medical treatment. But the only time they get better is when we move the energy. Why is that possible? Why is that necessary? Well, Professor Nordenström of Sweden, who was a pioneer of needle biopsy and Nobel laureate, he makes the point in his research very clear. In the European Journal of Surgery, he says, our body has a complex electrical system separate to the nervous system. And he equated this to the energy system of the body. And for all systems to go, the energy system must be right. Well, his critical point was this, that what they discovered was that our body is all the time inheriting information. What we give out, we get back. What we transmit into our field. So if we're full of fear and anxiety, we're transmitting that energy into our field of energy. And our body is inheriting that. Because once we transmit, so if we have a negative perspective of our life, if we have a negative thinking going on, if there's trauma, if there's stress, then all of the information of our past and experiences are in this field of energy. When we change that information, because that's what's happening, is our body is all the time inheriting information stored in the energy field. For a child that's conceived and that goes through womb life in a stressful space, we will see people coming into this clinic who's the children who've gone through traumatic experiences. So how is a baby going to understand the traumatic experience that he experienced in the womb or she experienced in the womb, because the mother was traumatic, had a traumatic life because she was subject to some type of abuse or bullying at work, or maybe there was a sudden death in a family, she might have an accident. How are we going to go back to release that information? Because the child can't remember it. But the memory of those experiences are stored within the energy system. So again, Thomas Verney wrote a great book called The Secret Life of the Unborn. So we don't think about the life switching on at 9 months. We think about it at conception. Conception, womb life, and birth, right up to the age of 3 to 5 are the most critical years of a child's life. So when we get children into the clinic, they're the easiest thing to work with. Children who are born through C-section, vacuum, forceps delivery, we know the implications. Okay, so therefore we know they can have reflux, colic, different types of symptoms, can lead to learning and behavioral difficulties depending whether the mother breastfed or not. All of this information we make available to our practitioners. And the thing is that it's all backed up, all science-based. And most importantly, it's what I've experienced in my clinic over the years, so I can talk about it. We often get kids coming in here, 3-4 months old, can't sleep, not in the best of form all the time, digestive problems, pale color, having a number of antibiotics taken, and so on. And once we work with the energy, often within 3 or 4 days, it's a different child, because we've released the stress by working with the energy. Because what happens is with the energy system, when the energy system gets blocked or imbalanced because of stress, trauma, fear, worry, anxiety, a number of different things, okay? When the energy system gets blocked, it alters the functioning of the nervous system. And in particular, the enteric nervous system, which is embedded in the gut and esophagus and throat, and of course the vagal tone from the base of the brain that splays down through the chest and into the abdominal area. And when that pathway is altered neurologically, then the gut function, it just can't function. So the whole digestive system breaks down because of the emotional blockage of the energy from the trauma at birth. Now, the critical thing about that in an adult, for example, is that 90% of your serotonin is produced in your gut. So if you're stressed and people are stressed coming into me, we have to be able to reset the energy system or the nervous system. So how are we going to do that? We do that by using certain skills to release the blockages of energy from the abdominal area. And once we start to do that and reset the whole nervous system and go from that sympathetic overload back into the sympathetic space, you know, working with the energy is the quickest way to do that. We see it here often in the first session with patients coming to our clinic. So the whole idea is, over the years, we have developed techniques. And the techniques are designed to work with different conditions. So when people finish the course, they have, you know, a booklet of the different protocols for different treatments, or for different conditions. So people will come in with, you know, they may have pain in their shoulder, or you have to work with it in a certain way. People may have migraine type problem, you have to work with it in a certain way. There's some things you will and won't do. People have vascular issues. I will get people in here who have had amputations, who are diabetics, who are trying to save their feet, and where you're looking at circulatory issues. You know, it's just so much. And but the whole idea is that we've devised techniques that when you work with the technique itself, even if you can't feel it, the patient feels it. And then once you get into developing the technique properly, then you start using the technique to intuitively feel what else might be going on. Because always remember, your hands are just an extension of your own psyche. So when you feel the energy, you can feel where it's blocked. And then you start to release it and you start to work with it. And people actually sense this. They feel this tingling, heat, coolness. People feel, as I said, the different types of movements and all that. And that's what we bring to the course. It's complex, it's dynamic, it's exciting, it's new in a sense that as I said to you, the modern day, the type of practitioner you've got to see yourself as is a practitioner that is able to bring a set of skills, unique skills, to the environment, your clinical environment. So that when a client or patient comes to you, that you're able to understand what is required to be to engage that individual in a process of recovery by working with the energy, getting the mindset right, teaching them to deal with their emotions, supporting that with the right nutrition, teaching them certain mindset skills and emotional skills, looking at their exercise, looking at their environment. Because again, any little piece of that jigsaw is off, it's going to disrupt the healing. Any piece of it. And I'm not sure if many of you or some of you are already working in this field, but you may see this yourself. So the whole idea, what I have found to be very acceptable to the normal person out there, because we have to demystify this. I could come in here and just wave my hands around, people move back and forth and they get better and go, oh, Michael is amazing. That's not the message I want to give. The message I want to give is that Michael is an ordinary person. The practitioners here with me are ordinary people doing extraordinary work using a unique set of skills to work with people, clients, patients when they come to the clinic. And if it requires medical support, that's fine too. If it requires the support of a psychiatric or a psychologist, that's fine too. Whatever it takes to get the patient back to health, we have to bring that to the table. Critically, as I said, 90% of it is the energy system. Because if we get the energy system right, and we get the microbial system right, which is the gut and the digestive system, they're the two key points. After that, it's a matter then of making sure the mindset is in the right form. And if we can get like Nathan, for example, if I can get somebody like Nathan into the zone, face reality or continue and suffer on. That's my message to people. You either make the changes, and we're going to help you initially. We're going to get this energy flowing. You're going to begin to sleep better. You're going to bring in the right food. And after within, a few weeks, couple of months, next thing you have people, in a different space completely. So as I said to you, it's very broad. And I'm very fortunate, that I'm doing this work for 33 years, because it means there's nothing I haven't seen. There's no drug I don't understand. There's no condition I don't understand. But it doesn't make a difference, because if a baby comes into me, there's nothing I can say that baby is going to make a difference. It's the work that I'm going to do. It's the consciousness that I bring and the skills that we've developed by working with the energy. That's what's going to make the difference. Now, if anybody wants to ask a question after that, please feel free to do so. If you want to unmute yourself, Anyone to ask any question? Please feel free to do that. Anybody, any question? Can you all hear me? Yeah? Now, the courses run over a period of 9 months, of course, as you know, and it's 1 weekend per month, and I think it's $475 per month. And when people finish, they get their insurance through Valence, which is what we use, and then there's a minimum charged for patients that people charge for patients, which is about 50 per session, different from me. But again, they can recoup their investment quite quickly. So, but ultimately, as I said to you, the real key, guys, if you really want to get into this work and you really want to impact on people's lives, if you were to bring the model of care that I'm offering in my clinic here every day, I know, trust me, I know the difference would be just amazing. So has anybody any question at all? Anybody unsure about anything or no?
Hi, Michael. Just it's really interesting. I'm really excited to get started. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah,
lovely. I just wanted to ask you how many clients or how many people will we be working on ourselves in the course, to practice on?
Well, look at you can practice on as many as you want yourself at home. We look for 5 case studies, and then we give an opportunity. We also give an opportunity to therapists, when possible, to come into the clinic with me. So you can see what we're dealing with here and how we deal with it, and the different types of issues that we deal with. So yeah, and there'll be times as well, patients that I'm having in my clinic, there'll be 3 or 4 of the weekends, this course, at least 3 of them, clients that I had that I wanted to help a little bit more without charging them, we brought them into the course and got the therapist to work with them. Which was it was really helpful, because you're getting a feel for what the problems are. And as I said to you, there's so much I could talk to you about tonight. There's so much research I can bring on. I'm looking at developing a long COVID protocol now, and I think this is going to be huge. I want to develop a whole new children's protocol as well. While we teach, the first weekend is really getting into the family dynamics and children and all that kind of thing. But as we progress in the course, absolutely the whole area of children's health in particular, and their emotional health, all of this is we're just getting huge amount of calls every day from parents who are really struggling out there, really struggling. And age is irrelevant, I've had people doing this course who were in their 70s, no problem, and they loved it. But the one other side of it, I was just talking to a lovely lady, she won't mind me saying it, Alice. She was on the course with us this time, and prior to coming on the course, now she came on the course for herself, and she wanted to help a member of family as well. But she came on the course for herself rather than thinking about practice, even though she was doing a little bit of stuff. But before she came on the course, she was seeing at least maybe once or twice, once a week, she was probably seeing a doctor. Hasn't seen one since she started the course a year ago. She was once 22 stone because of medication. Life changed so much for her. She just said, Michael, I'm going to get a little video clip from her and just let you see it. And that's the amazing thing about it. I know Francis would say that it would change your life. It does change your life, because it engages you. I had a principal from a school and another teacher, 2 nurses. So they come from a different role. I had one nurse who teaches nursing. I had one tutor and a lecturer. And she's going to try and get this in, because, and I regularly go to schools to talk to children. I did it voluntarily, of course, free. Only last week I was above in Galway and Craigmore talking to 5th class. I've done it in Flanagan's. I also went to the corporate area. And this work is very helpful as well in that whole area of the whole corporate side of things. So there are many different avenues of this, whether it's childcare, whether it's something with a mechanical problem, because again, I will go into the mechanics of the body, the spine, how it works, the types of exercise, because I'm qualified in functional movement assessment and strength and conditioning, and so therefore it's always good, and I bring that. And of course, Ava teaches Qigong, And Qigong is active meditation, and this is really powerful for, for movement. It's an active meditation practice. It's really, really good, and she's really good at her job. And so the whole idea is to equip you with the skills, that works with every aspect of the body, and to understand it in very, very simple ways. So there are many different sort of avenues out of it. The corporate sector, well, I mean, every week we're getting people in from the corporate sector. So someone's sending a message there from, hi, from Wendy to everyone. How do you apply? Sorry, Wendy, you might just repeat that again. Let me just see the message. Sorry. How do you apply practice to dying? Yeah, absolutely. It's an excellent question. An excellent question. I've treated many people in these circumstances over my life, from working in Chernobyl and in different environments across the world, seeing people suffering, going into hospices, treating people. I'm not sure, maybe you do know, but I did a lot of work with Vicky Phelan and Ruth Morrissey. Vicky, I would have known for 4 years. And she would have said that she wrote about it in the book and how it helped her as well, her own book. And so I know what it's like to be dealing with people who are in that space. And the key here is that's another debate that we can have. Life is continuous. The one thing that I've always found, and I know this, my own mother who got a cardiac arrest and we resuscitated her and we got it back and she lasted 11 days. But the whole thing about it is how we can ease the journey, how we can work with people with energy to ease their journey. And absolutely, because you transmit that love, you open up the heart, you work to clear their energy, take the stress away from their body, assure them, that I have no doubt from my experience, in working with this people so long, that what we're seeing here is very limited model or very limited perspective of reality. We exist in a multidimensional reality. I think we all have to begin to understand that and open up and, in a way, roll back that tombstone and allow the light in, because for some reason or other, we have we perceive death, and we perceive that as something that is just darkness and whatever. I don't believe that to be the case. I believe absolutely, from my own research and talking to people and looking at the research associated with this, that that what we have to do is, by working with the energy, opening up the heart, transmitting the love, calming the person, ensuring them that can be very powerful. And I truly believe on the other side, it's the individual who's passing on, and I hope this happens to ourselves, that we're also getting some support from other dimensions, and that there's an element of peace that comes about as we exit this dimension as well. So it's all part of life, unfortunately. And that's, I think, it can be very, very powerful, Wendy. I hope that helps you to understand that. Death is loss, is grief. Grief is not nice. It's not easy. I know what it's like. It's not an easy thing, but I think we all grow through the experience, and we have to do more acceptance of it, because if you look at the world today and you think everybody's never going to die, that is a normal part of life. Like, winter falls into spring, into summer, into autumn, and that's just, again, a consciousness. So certainly working with the energy, it can be really helpful to relax the person and to release any anxiety or stress from them if they're in that space of passing on to the next dimension. All positive. Yeah. All positive. Yeah.
Hi, Michael.
Hi.
I've Elaine here. I was wondering if I could ask a question. I was speaking to your colleague on the phone today, and it's in relation to a family member that we feel was over-medicated in hospital, and
they were over-medicated.
We feel they were over. Well, we were told at one stage that he was. Yeah. He went in with heart faints, ended up with a brain infection, and now has been diagnosed with Lewy body. So we'd love to get him some help.
Yeah.
He is in a home now, but
yeah,
I thought I'd do the course maybe to help him.
Yeah, but the thing about it is this, that unfortunately, a lot of these people are dismissed by the medical profession. Yeah. Now, I mean, I could go into this all day with you because, and if we look at the research around this, so when you go back to the likes of what you call this Lewy body, ultimately it's dementia, it's vascular, it's a blood.
Yeah.
Okay, so like blood flow, you know, when I get people in here, so let me give you first of all, I often see people in here who are on too much cholesterol medication that affects blood flow to the brain. So we go away, I get Professor Stoughton in the Galway Clinic to do a vascular analysis, carotids, cerebral artery, and they do this through an MRA, which is a magnetic resonance angiogram, and can determine as to what might be contributing to the problem. We know that vitamin B1, for example, and the B complex, the Bs are hugely essential in these cases. So whether it's the brain or spinal cord. Now we also know in the most up-to-date research, I have it here, and I'm going to be doing up an article on it, a kind of a PowerPoint on it. It's called Long COVID and the Brain, because what we're seeing is that COVID itself breaks the blood-brain barrier down. What the research is now saying is that traces of the protein from COVID are now found in the brain. And what happens is that the brain becomes inflamed. So whatever type of infection, if it's because there are microbes in the brain like the gut. So whether it's a some microbial thing that went into the gut through the blood-brain barrier, then now the inflammation is a normal, is an immune response. And this is what we're seeing with long COVID, whether it's the nervous system, whether it's POTS syndrome, whether it's fatigue, whether it's digestive problems because of the receptors in the cells. So for us, I genuinely believe that working with the energy, getting the gut functioning right, because the gut directly connects to the brain, Wendy. The other side of it is that you could, if he was a private patient, look for further analysis. Had he an MRI scan? Who looked at that? You could look for a proper vascular analysis. Was there a vascular analysis done? Is there a blockage of blood flow? Do you get what I'm saying to you? Was he a smoker? You know, what are his carotids like? There's so many different things you can do medically, and then look at the medication and what the side effects of those medications are, and then look at working with the energy and even working with his food. The problem you see is the problem when you go into a home, and of course, as we know this through COVID, it was the isolation and abandonment that killed people more than anything else.
Yeah.
So the real key is the connection, because if what you're saying is right, your father was fine, and this happened acutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then I'd be certainly investigating that much further.
Yeah, because like the man that I was talking to today is so not like the man that was even in hospital 6 weeks ago. He had no words 6 weeks ago. He's improving so drastically.
Oh, well,
now that he's out of
where's he living? Where are you living? Do you mind?
We're down in West Cork. He's in Drimoleague, we're Clonakilty. Yeah.
Okay. Well, absolutely. I mean, God, yeah. I mean, doing the energy work would be absolutely powerful for him. Powerful.
So if I was to do the course, Michael, how soon could I help him?
After the first weekend.
After the first weekend. Oh, okay.
Straight away, I'll go through with you and explain what you need to do, how to energize the head, how to clear the pressure off, help with blood supply to the brain, because this is the one thing we know. So Professor Valerie Hunt, she wrote a book called Infinite Mind. Professor Valerie Hunt, she died in 2013. I used to communicate with her. She worked with NASA for 25 years. She was able to show clearly in her research that the energy system is first that becomes imbalanced before we become ill. And she was able to show that by working with the energy, that neuromuscular conditions could recover. Parkinson's, MS, and so on, learning and behavior difficulties.
Okay.
And she said, because the critical thing is that energy, when you have 60,000 miles of vessels of your body, you have a huge amount of microcirculation going on. So when you get the energy flowing, the energy carries the blood, oxygen, and nutrients to the area of the body. You know, so you're down in West Cork. You're down in West Cork. In Bandon, your dad should be having hyperbaric treatment.
Never thought of that.
Hyperbaric oxygen treatment.
Yeah.
Because he's deprived of oxygen.
Yeah.
if he's deprived of blood flow, if they're saying it's vascular, if he's deprived of blood flow, then he's deprived of oxygen.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying to you
Okay.
guys? So this is something,
Yeah.
you know, and again, this is something that you look at add-ons when you're working with the treatment. How is it?
Yeah.
And so in your case, absolutely, you'll be working with the energy, you know, making some food and bringing it into him. And don't be listening to the guys inside, with the greatest of respect. A lot of them are assholes, you know, in these environments. You know, same in hospitals, by the way. You know,
Yeah.
people, their manner is terrible, their language is terrible, as in the language they use. Very good friend of mine, Professor Fergus Shanahan in Cork, wrote this book called The Language of Illness. And it's all about the words, because the words that people use and the words you use to your patients coming in, they carry with them. So the idea of telling your dad, well, this is dementia now, this is it. Dementia is not something that comes on acutely. It's a progression.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yeah. And this happened to him overnight. It was
Yeah,
literally
that doesn't
within.
happen. And any normal thinking person will tell you that that doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
So I would certainly be looking, how did they determine it was vascular dementia? Did they do a brain scan?
They did as many scans. Well, you see, whenever they did any tests, he was so over medicated. He could hardly open his eyes. He was so sedated.
Crazy. I
You know.
had a lady who came to me 4 months ago here with Parkinson's. And
Yeah.
I said to her, look, whatever you have, you don't have Parkinson's. You could have dystonia, you could have Huntington's, because all of your symptoms are similar to that. So we got her to go to see a neurologist in the Galway clinic. I think Raman Ahmed was his name. We have his details there. So I said, listen, you need a proper neurological analysis and an assessment of your medication. And 3 months later, maybe 2 months later, she walked in the gate as normal as you or I. Over medicated.
Over medicated.
Over medicated was her problem. And I mean, to look at her now and to see her now, you know, and her consultant said to her, listen, the problem is your medication. Now, to find consultants like that is just like a needle in a haystack, because the system doesn't provide for that. And this is why I'm saying to you, you know, with the course, me bringing this experience to you really equips you to be able to deal with these issues that arise in the clinical practice. Do you get what I'm saying, guys? Because of my experience, not because of an ego, but because of just my experience in dealing with this and talking to lots of medics, talking to them and working with them and doing my own research and they advising me. You know, I can pick up the phone and text the consultant today, maybe in Galway, and I'd say, listen, I have a person here that, what do you think? And they'll come back and say, we think it's this, and we'll get a scan done, we'll do a check, let's rule it out, and you know, all that kind of stuff. So this is the modern day practitioner. You don't have to be a doctor, you don't have to understand biochemistry, you don't have to understand, you just have to understand the basics of how you function, you know, from energy, mind, emotions, you know, and you have to, and blood flow, and this is your body you're learning about. And when you take that information and apply it to your daily life, you can prevent 90% of the modern day illnesses. 90%. That's not Michael saying. That's what the research said. You know, we see the increases in cancers and depression and anxiety and suicides and all of this kind of stuff. Why? The reason is because we've lost touch with ourselves. We have no fallback, no spirituality, no grounding in nature, living in a material world, expecting that all the material things will give us the happiness. The only thing that is, happiness is unattainable in this world. It's unattainable. What's attainable is the meaning to your life. Find meaning to your life, and you'll find that contentment, which you could really deem as happiness. You find that contentment that you get up every morning, open the door, thank God for being able to breathe, listen to the birds, you know, live where you're breathing in fresh air, you know. That's what I do every morning before I come into my clinic, and you know, and then bringing that awareness in. And that's what we need. That doesn't mean people can't go along and be wealthy and healthy, and be wealthy and happy. But I deal with millionaires, billionaires, you know, because it's not about money. It's coming back to basics. But certainly, Wendy, I would be saying to you that I would ask for the hospital notes also. I would ask them for the hospital notes, what drugs were administered. So when you say he went in with a cardiology issue, what type of cardiology issue? Do you want to discuss that?
They were calling it heart faints. It was like he was just, they
Blood
started
pressure.
off quite slow.
Is his blood pressure going
Yeah,
down?
yeah. And then the last one on the 5th of December, he went out for quite some time, and it was like, it was about 2 hours before he actually came around. So that particular occasion, he was taken to hospital by ambulance, and within a couple of days, it was like he had this brain infection that he just spiraled. It spiraled, and he had a horrendous time.
I would not rule out the connection between COVID itself.
And in October, he was after getting his flu vaccine, and they gave him the
Booster.
the pneumonia vaccine as well. And he said himself he never felt well after that. So when he went into hospital, he ended up with this brain infection that they told us. Then he got COVID in there, he got pneumonia in there, and he was isolated. And it was the week of isolation that just sent him over the edge.
Well, you see, what we're seeing now is that with people coming to us with this problem every week, there's a viral overload still active in the system. And unfortunately, the immune system then is inflaming, is stimulating that by inflammation. So it's I would say what happened is his brain became more inflamed, but his heart could have become inflamed as well. This is what the cardiomyopathy is. They would be looking for heart failure in your father at his age. You can have heart failure.
Yeah.
You and I can have heart failure. Sorry, because of age.
Right.
That, so you really want to get a good cardiovascular analysis. I'd be looking at his notes. I'd be asking for his notes.
Yeah. Because basically then they told us that because of Lewy body, he wasn't able to come home because of his behavior, basically.
Yeah.
But that hasn't seemed to be showing in the last few weeks. He's mellowed out so much. As I say, he's got words back. He's a different man.
Yeah, if you work with the energy with him, I might see who's down around you and see if I can get someone to come in as well and maybe do a little bit of work with you and to help him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did speak to Anne O'Driscoll. Right. She is Portmagee, which is quite a distance away as well.
Let me just check with one of them. I think there might be one not too far away from you now.
Okay, that would be great.
I'll check that tomorrow with Francis. I want to see where Alice is from. But yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
We'll all be sending energy his way now because I said to you.
Oh, that would be great.
I don't buy into this thing that vascular dementia or anything that comes on acutely. There's obviously inflammation in the brain, for sure.
Yeah.
And his body is probably full of inflammation. But if you start giving him the right food, and maybe if you has Francis your own number?
Francis has, yeah. We were in touch today,
okay,
yeah.
So I might at some chance give you a call tomorrow or yourself privately, and the next day or maybe Friday, and just have a chat about that.
Brilliant. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Okay, sorry. I hope people didn't mind, but at least it'll help other people on this screen to understand, that the modern day practitioner, there's so much, that you can do for people out there. This idea that you have to take a drug to solve the problem, while medicine has a role to play, don't get me wrong. But this idea that you have to take a drug to solve the problem, people are looking for a new system, a new language. Do you get what I'm saying to you guys? That's what people are looking for.
Mm-hmm.
For a new system, a new language. Just thinking out, can one just do one level family healthcare weekend and help family? Yeah, absolutely. Geraldine, if you just want to do one weekend, that's fine. It gives you a limited sort of use of working with the energy. But of course, absolutely you can. But I'll tell you, when you do the first one, you'll be doing the rest of them. Sorry, now this is the last one, the age coming up. Anybody else like to comment or any other question, guys? No, Sean, you're happy. Amy, you're happy. Yeah. Sean, any question or comment or no?
No, sorry, Michael. I've just listened to everything here. It's fascinating. So I'm learning and keeping quiet yet, but I will have plenty to say as I go on.
Yeah, so I look at it, at least now you know kind of, guys, what you have ahead of you. You know what I mean? That it's hugely exciting, the opportunities that are out there. Hugely. You know, as I said, there's just so many. I was just looking at a thing I posted on my Facebook a couple of, maybe about 6 weeks ago, of a kid I had here working with his legs, like, and I saw this evening, there's nearly 100,000 views on it. You know what I mean? And like the amount of people now that are really, really looking for, you know, a practice like this, a system like this, that looks at everything. And if you, as I said to you earlier on, guys, if you take it on board and apply it in the way, the 4-day treatment, you know, on the 3rd day, we always do the nutrition, visualization skills, because, you know, I always say and I'll say to you or yourselves, and it's something you can write down, whether it's for you or a member of your family, like, where do you see yourself in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months? If you don't have an image of that, well, nobody's going to create it for you. You know, for a patient coming into me, that's the first thing I will say to them. Tell me where you see yourself in 3 months' time, 6 months, 9 months, a year. And I say, oh, Jesus, I never thought about that. You know what I mean? I never thought about 6 months. I never thought about 3 months. You know, people don't seem to want to engage, you know, in, you know, their perspective, because we have the power. There are 2 types of personalities in the world. 1, we're either a victim, or 2, we're a creator. So we know that we have the power to create whatever. This is not using words like manifestation and all this kind of attraction and all that kind of stuff. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the real science that says what you're thinking, what you're perceiving, what you're believing, you're signaling every cell of your body, you're producing biochemistry pertaining to that. And if we have that power to influence our own body, why wouldn't we use it? You know, why wouldn't we use it? Because we're not shown how to. The patient isn't shown how to be predictive in their daily life, because the brain is a predictive organ. Our mind is a predictive unit. We're not shown how to predict. We have the power to predict our future. And that's not just theory. Look at placebo drugs trials. 100 people, 50 of them are an antidepressant, 50 of them are sugar pills. The results are the same, 35%. What does that tell us? It is the gold standard of licensing drugs into the market. The drug has to be better than people's own mindset. Why are we throwing out that science? If that's so powerful, can you imagine that you can say now today that 35% of people who are suffering out there have the power to shape their own mind, to shape their own world, to recover from illness? If a drug could do that, it would be, you know, it would win the Nobel Prize. So we need to tap into this inner resource that we have. And if we can do that and stick with it. Persistence is the new faith. Because if you persist, you have faith in it. It's like Wendy. I want her to persist and have faith that her dad will overcome this, and get all the family in that same space, that you're all transmitting that energy, you know. And if we do that, it can be really powerful. Really, really powerful. Okay, any other question? Yes?
Can you hear me?
I can indeed, yes. Mary.
Yeah. Do you, Michael? Yeah.
Mary.
Do you have like a reading list?
Yeah, we have a reading list, and there'll be YouTube clips and all that stuff that we would talk to you about. And there'll be certain books that we would get you to read. As I said, Professor Valerie Hunt's one is probably the main one. She has done a huge amount of research on that, the likes of, and you can go back. There's lots of other books as well. Bjorn Lawrence of Sweden, of course, his stuff. There are lots of real good books that look at, but most of these books are on YouTube. And really, I'm often going along in the road, even today, and I'll just click on it, and the YouTube will be on, and I'll be listening to it, and it's actually a book. And it could be a book from 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Might not necessarily be modern stuff, you know. And I'm always interested in looking at books of people's own experience, That's the, because remember, life is about a story. Illness is about a story. For everybody who is ill, there's a story attached to it. And it's by unraveling the story, we get to the root of the problem. And that takes time. That takes time.
Yeah, and just the other question is, like you were talking there about the brain health and nutrition and that. Do you put people on like a ketogenic diet for ketones for the brain health? Do you?
No, we don't.
Have you?
We don't specifically go into specific diets. What we do is we do a general nutritional plan for them, talk about the types of supplements they need, and then from there, if people obviously when they come to it, they have a good understanding of various types of diets. Often people come with vegan, and they're, all that kind of stuff. But we leave that to themselves to decide. We don't force them. Yes, we know that certain types of diets, for example, might help epilepsy. So the ketogenic diet might help epilepsy, for example, and so on, because of ketones, and that's another issue. But we also know that recently Klebsiella pneumonia can also, which is a bacteria, which is found in the gut, can also cause seizures. We know that there are a number of different things that can cause seizures. So sometimes we use food to kind of stimulate the symptom, and certainly food is critical, and it is important. For the reason being that, as Professor Fergus Shanahan said, the diversity of what we eat on a day-to-day basis creates the diversity of bacteria in our gut, which in turn determine the type of illness that we will develop. So it's critical that, and the ketogenic diet wouldn't be for everybody. And so we're always saying, look, let's try to keep it all simple here. Let's pull back, keep it all simple. And then if you do want to go down the road to exhaust a specific avenue, whether it be a vegan diet, a vegetarian diet, a ketogenic diet, whatever, then see how you feel with that. Listen to your body. If it works, it works. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. That's fine as well. So yeah, it's very, it's very personal, that type of thing. And while there's a lot of research out there, as you know, Mary, around the ketogenic diet and its impact, of course, absolutely. Gluten, I find, is one of the biggest problems. We have people in our YouTube channel there who had ulcerative colitis, and we have people who have Crohn's and different types of things. And we see the massive change. There's 2 people on my YouTube channel who have fully recovered from ulcerative colitis, and yes, nutrition was a critical part of it as well. So, but it wasn't ketogenic diet, but yes, nutrition was a critical part. But like I always say to people, our digestive system isn't just about our food. We digest our emotions, our fear, our worry, our perceptions, our environment. We are continuously processing. And if we don't eliminate or transform, then it doesn't make a difference. We'll be chasing our tail, taking that left turn, as I said, on the roundabout, up into a dead end.
And thank you for that. And from your, like, say, like, just so approximately, like from your client pool, like some people are going to take on board what you feel they need to do, or whatever. Percentage wise of like how many people actually follow through, would you say? Would you say 50% of people?
Minimum, yeah, minimum. Because you see, the thing about it is people are coming here, they're spending 4 days, they're traveling, they may be staying, they're paying a lot of money for it, and they know going away that if they don't put in the time and effort, Mary, and adapt to the strategy that we've advised them, they know they're not going to get better. Because for the first time, they're given the power to shape and change their own life. And that's the key, that they're not depending on Michael Doherty or Wendy or Mary or Amy or Sean or anybody else to solve their problem. We're here to get their energy system right, to get their mindset in the right space, to teach them to deal with their emotions, look at their food, like we were saying, look at their environment, equip them with the skills. If we equip them with the skills and they go and implement them, their lives will change. I promise you that. And even if it's only one, but we see here, even by the end of the 4 days, Mary, pretty much everyone that comes, they're on board. Now it's up to themselves after that. And then, of course, we follow that up because some of them will need more energy work, ongoing. And some of them will need, at minimum, maybe 3 months, you get them back for more treatment. Maybe in between that, you might need to do a day to help them. So it's all about creating the strategy, working with them, seeing their process, and then 3, 6, 9 months down the road, they look back and they say, okay, this is what I've done, this is how I feel. And if they don't, so if somebody rings my office up, okay, and it says, oh God, I'm not feeling any better, Francis has all their documentation outside, okay, or Tina or I or someone would speak to them and say, okay, so let's look, what changes have you made? We advise you to do this, 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 and this. Well, I haven't time to this, and I didn't do that, and okay, so look at, this is down to you. So you always, so you as a practitioner, you have to really instill upon them and be assertive. Either you do it or you don't. The choice is yours. It's fitness or health. You cannot continue on the journey you're on, like we say, Nathan, and then expect to get better. And if you spend the rest of your life getting better, so what? That's the key to it. It's about living a model, having a model of living that gives you an element of responsibility over your life and your journey and your destiny.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And the other thing about his Mary is that people are so challenged out there today. They're so challenged, and yet I often say, well, what are the 3 things you have to do every day that you have to do? You have to eat, you have to breathe, and you have to think. And if you can change the way you think, change the way you breathe, and change the way you eat, just that will change your life. They're only simple things. They're only simple things. But we take them for granted because it's our thoughts, our subconscious mind. 95% of your day and my day is determined by the internal operating system based on what we've experienced in our past. Our reaction to our stresses is based on our experiences in our past, because that's our operating system. So I always say, listen, if you can think better, differently about you, who you are, and your future, if you can breathe differently, if you can, because we know the implications of that. We advise people to do yoga, for example. We say, and if you can eat right, just do those basic things. And often then when they start to feel a little bit better in a week or 2, or often during the treatment, week or 2, that becomes the incentive. That becomes the incentive. And that then kicks them on to keep working. So we've had amazing success in our clinics, not because we're miracle workers, but because we really assert the position of you being responsible for your life. As I said, if you bring people in and tell them, oh, Michael is going to solve your problem, no, it doesn't work like that. But we will get your energy flowing. We will get all the other aspects of your life in order. And if you adapt that and apply that, science says you recover. Yeah,
It's an empowerment of them, really, to
take
control themselves.
Absolutely, Mary, and it's a family thing, because, we see the breakdown of the family unit. We know that society has created both parents out to work. We see the problems in children. I'll show you some amazing clips, talk to you about some amazing ways of working with interaction with children and how this is missing. I mean, anybody who was born after 1995 is in trouble. Is in trouble.
Yeah.
We see it. It's crazy. It's absolutely so challenging. Parents are just at their wits' end. Every text, every call, message coming through my Facebook, Michael, my 14-year-old daughter, my 13-year-old son, we're at our wits' end. We've had them at psychologists, CAMs, we've had them medication. We're seeing a huge increase in autistic spectrum conditions. We're seeing, a whole academic environment breaking down. We look at the pressure the kids are under now through all this transgender stuff and all this kind of stuff that's going on. I mean, right, kids don't know whether they're coming or going. And then we have to understand the brain doesn't fully develop in the child until the age of 25. So it's, and this is, and unless you can sit the parents down, and we get parents to come in here to the clinic with us, with the children, and when we sit them down and talk with them in this way, they understand it. And they start realizing, this is a mobile phone. This is the greatest weapon of mass destruction. is destroying our society because of the way artificial intelligence is working and the way it's going and the disconnect and all of that kind of stuff. And this is all energy. This is all about vibrations and frequency. So when we get people in here, we have to reset them back to nature. Reset, and take them out of that frantic space and reset their system back into nature, into that deeper internal divine aspect of their own being. That's where we find everything.
And do you tend to work with people like individually, or do you group sometimes certain people together?
I never do groups. No, never do groups. It's all individual. All individual.
Okay.
That doesn't mean you can't work with you can, but I think because of the nature of the way we've developed it, it's because I think that with people coming in, you could have 5 people in the clinic who all have fibromyalgia, but you could all have 5 different reasons why they have it. But then you have to be very specific. Yes, there can be a general understanding, but then you have to go into the specific. I always say to my therapist, find the full story. You must get the full story. No matter what happens, when a patient comes to you, you must sit down and get the full story. If you don't get the full story, you cannot devise the right strategy. And in medicine today, they don't have time for the full story. They don't have the hour plus that I have here with the client.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They don't have the full story. And that's what we're dealing with. Continuously, that's where modern healthcare has gone. It's, I'd hate to be starting now. If I didn't have the years of experience that I have now, it would be hugely challenging to even attempt, And that's the great thing about doing this course. I bring that and support therapists. Set up a WhatsApp group and send them up to date research and all that kind of stuff that's going on wherever it is. And it's always really, really helpful for people. I always find when you come back to change the energy and reset the system and reconnect them, it can really be so powerful.
And the thing with the energy, right? I suppose the thing that I can worry about is like, what if you can't feel it? What if you feel that you? When will you know whether you can?
Have you ever felt love for somebody?
Yeah, I think so.
Have you ever felt fear?
Yes.
That's all energy. See, the hands are only an extension. Have you ever thought about somebody and suddenly you met them or they rang, called you?
Yeah.
Because we're all living this. Energy is a web that unites all reality. So our hands are just an extension of that. We just need to, as you work with the energy, the areas of the brain that are responsible for developing that extrasensory ability will start to switch on.
Okay.
And the great thing about it is that even if, and this is the good thing, as I said to you earlier, even with working with the energy, if you cannot feel it, which you will, trust me, the patient feels what you're doing. And that gives you the confidence to know there's something happening. And then that removes that obstacle that you don't value yourself for. It removes that obstacle that you're not capable or that you're insufficient. And when you remove that obstacle and you start working with the energy, it lights up. You can imagine me as a 23-year-old Mary trying to stand in front of people and tell them I can solve their problem. Bit of a ADHD type personality myself, I suppose, at that stage. You're living your life. So we had no clue about it. We just worked. People got better. Quantum physics hadn't the awareness at that stage. Non-local physics. No one understood the power of thought, the importance of food, the interaction of environment. Nobody understood the womb life experience. That science didn't exist. We just worked. It was our intention that made a difference. But then, for me, I just eat and breathe and sleep this because then I wanted to find out why was this happening. And this is now why I can explain. This is why it happens. This is what happens.
And Michael, in the release of energy, is that gentle on people or can it be? Yeah. It's gentle. It's not traumatic.
Because because the whole intention and focus is healing.
Right.
Calming. Okay. The whole intention is what's important. It's your intention. That's what's so important. And the thing about it is this, you can go home or tonight before you sleep, you can imagine your father in your own mind, and he's lying in bed, and you can see that the inflammation is going down in his brain, the blood is flowing in his body, his immune system is getting stronger and stronger. You can see what you want to see. Now, that's intention, and that intention will transmit to him directly.
Okay.
And this is an area we call non-local physics. That's distant healing, and it comes from the heart. You're not doing it out of fear. You're doing it out of love for him.
Yeah.
And get everybody at home to do the exact same thing. None of us
Okay.
will do it forever, Wendy, but at least you want to be able to say, I've done everything and I'm doing everything.
Yeah.
That's the real truth. So, and we all can do that. I mean, any of you guys here, you know, we have the power to influence our own situation. Well, science also teaches that we can transmit it outwards. You know, we can transmit it out to other people and help other people.
Mhm. Okay, and I suppose one other question: do you have a lot of people who I would probably call them maybe failed therapy people? So I've come across people who've been to therapy, and you speak to them, and you know they explain to you how their therapy was, and you think to yourself, like, it seems to be like a very poor quality of therapy. Would you have people come in because the therapy they're getting is insufficient? Would you have a large, I mean, I suppose the question is, would you have a large volume of clients who would have, you know, a need of therapy?
Yeah, look, there's no doubt about it, and I say this to everybody, that if you want to administer the therapy, you have to have confidence in yourself, and you have to be fully there, all in, committed. People have to sense that from you. But a lot of people, you see, they just don't seem to have that knowledge about, like what I just spoke to you about for the last hour and 15 minutes or so. And people don't have confidence in because they're not able to instill upon them the types of skills and the strategies, you know, that they need to get better. And that could be a doctor, that could be a professor of medicine. You know, that's what I deal with every day. They're totally incompetent, half of them. You know, totally incompetent. They're clueless, absolutely clueless. You know what I mean? And as I said, I work with some local GPs as well, and you know, and we chat together. I have a client this week, and I know her GP, and I call him and I say this needs to be done, and he'll do it, and we work together. And it's that type of system that's required. There's no one therapy, Mary, that's going to make a difference. Bioenergy is not going to work. Aromatherapy, Reiki, reflexology, chiropractic, you know, osteopathy. No one therapy works because the body's not just made up of one system. We're multiple systems. But what controls all the functioning and systems of the body is the energy system. So you have to have that confidence. And we're always, this is kind of, after all these years of experience, that when I sit down with a patient and they tell me what's wrong with them, I can clearly identify then rapidly as to what I really feel the problem is. But I have to spend the first session here now just literally trying to get the full story from the patient. Because it's labor. Okay, so why is that? Why is that? Why did that happen? When did that happen? Suddenly. And often before patients come now to the clinic, Francis will ask them to email or send in a brief on everything they're going through. So we have it there, which saves time also. But suddenly you start to see, oh, you know, this is the issue here. This is what we need to go after. This is, you know, what the real problem is. That's something, as I said to we equip therapists with, is to understand that process. But they're going back to your question, Mary, there are some people out there, even people I have trained, they just feel, well, sure, I'll do that one day and I'll do a bit of Reiki another day and I'll do a bit of reflexology another day, and there's no system, there's no organization to it. And it doesn't, you know, and it's like, well, you know, what I'm doing, this is what's going to make the difference. It requires an awful lot more than that. An awful lot more than that.
Yeah. Thank you. That's reassuring, because I'd be a very sort of logical sort of person.
Yeah.
And I was you know, it's taken me a long time to kind of get to this point doing this. And I kept thinking to myself, I hope this is not some hocus pocus course because I can't do hocus pocus.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's very
yeah.
it's reassuring that it's a very sort of, I don't know, science-led or very grounded, grounded, sort of and incorporates all the other different, you know.
Yeah, you have to do it. And you know,
and the gut, and the gut biome, and that I think that's, you know, that's a big thing now. It's a lot of research on it and all the rest of it.
Yeah, and I understand that very well now. I've done a lot of research on that, and Professor Fergus is a good friend of mine, and we've discussed this on many occasions. He was one of the main guys in the Alpha Bionics Centre in Cork and UCC, and they did a huge amount of research in that area and so on. And absolutely, it's critical. And but the microbial system is even more than that now. We know now in parts of the brain and all that, of course. But the microbial signaling, I mean, the most up-to-date cancer research clearly demonstrates that any alteration of the microbial signaling in the gut can lead to, whether it be antibiotics, whether it be genetics, whether it be environment, whether it be drugs, whether it be poor diet. The research now says that if you alter the microbial signaling, then oral, lung, pancreatic, colon, liver cancers, develop. So that's the research that's there. So I show patients that. So this is what I'd be saying to you. You have your computer or your screen, you say, look, I want to show you this research. The reason why I can say to Nathan that if he keeps going, he's 23, by the time he hit 33, maybe 40, by the time he hit 40, I said, if you keep going, the science tells us, let me show you the science, tells us that you're going to end up with heart problems, diabetes, cancer, at the very least. It's no big, it's no magic wand either,
But I'm kind of thinking here is like you get a lot of patients and a lot of people who know what they should be doing, but still don't do it, and they know that they're going down a certain path, but they still go down there. Do you think the thing with the bioenergy, it's almost like the magic ingredient or the X factor, that they think that they have this on their side, that this is something that kind of gets them over the edge, that it's kind of like in their court and it helps them? Because I see lots of people and they know what they need to do, and myself, I know what I need to do. Doesn't mean I'm going to do it. But I think it's
the self-motivation and often working with the energy. So I always say to people, listen, waking up from the illusion that your health comes in a capsule or a bottle. It doesn't. So the whole idea is that when you get people to understand that, and I tell them straight, listen, if you want to continue doing what you're doing, continue to suffer. Go and enjoy your life and the best you can, and that's it. But you're right in what you're saying. I genuinely believe that working with the energy is the X factor. And I do a lot of other work and have access to a lot of work, and I see the value of the muscular work, the skeletal work. I see the value of the yoga and all that. All forms part of the strategy. Remember, it's a model of living. We are sick. People are sick because of their model of living. Forget about this word lifestyle. It's because of their model of living. That's what it is. It's a model. We change the model, we change the being.
And
so
would you
find we could be talking all night about this?
Yeah.
We really could,
I'd say a lot of patients probably get a bit of a shock that they're somewhat that they're challenged, that they don't think it's some soft, easy, moosey thing, and they basically need to take a hard look at things.
There's some young girls there, Shauna Thompson, she's on the first clip of my YouTube channel there, and I remember her sitting down in the chair with her mother, and I said, Shauna, forget about it. You're not going horse riding anymore. You're not going to do any of that kind of stuff. You're going to do what I tell you to do, or you continue to go to bed and take your antidepressants. And she was crying, and I'm telling you, if she had a gun, she would shot me. You know what? A year later, she's hugging me. What do you mean? She's telling people how great she is, and so it is shocking to people, but I don't mind that because it's truth. You're giving people the truth, and as practitioners, that's what you have to do. You're not in there trying to bullshit them. You're saying, this is your problem, this is the solution, and if you have a solution-based mindset and a solution model for them, then that's it. Then they can go, and when they go away, you know in your heart if you've given and equipped these people with the best of skills, to overcome their problem, and then give them the support after that, and then move on. So don't be sympathetic. Be empathetic. I will never be hugging anybody here because they're crying and they're emotional. I say, so, right, have a tissue. What's the next step? Why are you feeling like that? Get into the source. Some people think I'm very hard-bearing, but I'm not really. You know, it's what it takes. What it takes, folks, you know, and the thing is, throughout the course, it's how you change yourself. And when you start to work with yourself and how you change yourself, that can be so powerful.